Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the Illustrated Dracula by Bram Stoker with illustrations by comic legend Jae Lee. So if you don't know who Dracula is, you've probably had no contact with civilization. This is a character that everyone knows who he is, and he has permeated his way through pop culture like few characters have. But you may not know a lot about the author or his creator, Bram Stoker. So to give you a little bit of a background, Bram Stoker, or Abraham Stoker, was born November 8th, 1847, and died April 20th, 1912. He was an Irish author best known today for his 1897 Gothic horror novel, Dracula. During his lifetime, he was better known as the personal assistant of actor Sir Henry Irving and business manager of the Lyceum Theatre, which Irving owned. So that's a little bit about Bram Stoker. And he went on to write other books like The Lair of the White Worm and things like that. But without a doubt, his most famous novel, his signature character, is Dracula. So now I'll talk about a little bit of my background with the character. So my background with the character, I think most people probably know the character, or their first any kind of inkling of the character or first contact with the character was probably through the 1930s Universal black and white monster movies that starred Bela Lugosi, or maybe even the old Hammer horror pictures that starred Christopher Lee that played the character. But mine was actually the first memory I have. It may not be the first, but it's at the very least one of the earliest. Was the 1979 version of Dracula that starred Frank Langella as the character. And then, of course, obviously, I went on to watch the Universal pictures, the classic black and white monster movies. They used to rerun those a lot on CBC television when I was a kid, so I got to see all those. And then just all the other places you get exposed to Dracula through Halloween. And that's the other thing, this character is really linked in my mind. The two are really super linked, Halloween and Dracula. They just go together. Same thing with Frankenstein and Halloween, or the Frankenstein monster. Like, those characters and Halloween are linked, because they always use those characters to promote Halloween and things like that when it's Halloween time, and their costumes are always a staple in Halloween costume stores and stuff like that. And I think most people have at least once, if not more, have been both Dracula and Frankenstein at some point in their childhood for Halloween. Because I know I was both of them, and the Wolfman at one point as well. So that's some background I have with the character. So now I'm going to start talking about the book, because a lot of people know who Dracula is, but I don't know how many people today still have read Dracula, or how often Dracula is being read, but it is always on the bookshelves. So this book I picked up in 2006, and with the intention of reading it, because I had picked up Mary Shelley's Frankenstein hardcover at Barnes & Noble's classic hardcover that I actually found at a garage sale for, believe it or not, 10 cents. And here is that version right there that I picked up. It's got a nice dust jacket and stuff, and it's a pretty nice version, and it's very, very really good condition for the price I picked it up. And I actually read this not quite 10 years ago, but almost 10 years ago now I read this book. And but this is a whole separate video. So now, this got buried on my bookshelf for years and years and years, and just recently I pulled it out and decided to read it. And so it's interesting to actually read the original source material, because you go in with a lot of preconceived ideas because of all the movie adaptations, cartoons and comics, and everything that Dracula has been in. You go in with a lot of preconceptions going into this story. But first I'm going to talk about the actual book itself. So right off the bat, you can see it has a nice illustration on the cover by Jae Lee, and I really like the cover. Now it's like a cardboard cover. It's not leather, but it's kind of printed in a way. It has wear marks on it, as you can see, like on the spine and stuff. And you can really notice it more on the back here to look like old leather, but it's just like more or less a cardboard cover. And then on the inside of the book, now I bought this in 2006. I don't know what kind of paper this is, but it is like still super white, and it has these gorgeous illustrations throughout the book done by Jae Lee. And but the pages have not even begun to turn yellow. So this is a pretty nice addition. I don't honestly don't know how hard this would be to find these days, this version of Dracula. But it has like these absolutely gorgeous illustrations throughout, done by Jae Lee. And Jae Lee's style really works perfect for this Gothic horror, because I'm not really a fan of Jae Lee's style when it comes to mainstream superheroes. So that's the book, and there's actually, I'll point out a couple of my like absolute favorite illustrations in this book. So 3 of my favorite illustrations in the book is this one right here. That's absolutely gorgeous by Jae Lee. And then there's another one here of Lucy in the Graveyard, which is another really good one, black and white one. And then at the end here we have another one of Dracula himself with a sword through him. So a beautiful looking book. Really good addition to have. So now I'm going to talk about the actual story itself. So spoilers. I probably shouldn't have to do spoiler warnings, since this book has been in print for 123 years. So now I'm going to talk about some of the preconceived ideas. Some of the movies that I have, because I have 3 Dracula movies on DVD. I have the original Universal horror film starring Bela Lugosi, and then I have the 1979 version with Frank Langella, and then I have the 90s version with Gary Oldman, him and Keanu Reeves in that Dracula movie. So one thing all these movies kind of always put in is they always make Dracula like this kind of romantic sexual character, and a lot of them put this like romantic relationship between Dracula and Mina. So when you go in, if you've never read Dracula before, and the other thing, these movies always make Dracula more of a sympathetic character. They always give the character a sympathetic twist. Where when I read the novel, Dracula, there is no sympathetic twist to the character at all, and there is no romantic tie between him and Mina. Dracula is just a straight up evil monster, and that's it. It's that black and white in the book. There's nothing more complicated to the character than that. And now the other interesting thing when you read Dracula is Dracula's barely in the book, even though he is the title character. He shows up. The most you'll see the character is in the beginning when Jonathan Harker is at Dracula's castle and he gets trapped in there. And then after that, you don't see Dracula again hardly at all. Very sparingly he pops up throughout the novel, but it's written in a way, because the book is written with first-hand accounts, so it jumps back and forth between different characters. So you have Mina's journal and Jonathan Harker's journal, and then newspaper reports and all that kind of thing, and Dr. Seward's diary, things like that. So it's all from the character's point of view. So there's all these weird things that are happening in London, and you're getting all these strange reports of all these weird going-ons, and none of the characters know what's doing it. So they have to solve the puzzle. So you're as much in the dark as a reader as the characters are. So you kind of go along with the characters unraveling the mystery, what's happening, and who Dracula is. And then until around getting close to the end of the book, when all the characters figure out exactly what's going on and who Dracula is. But the whole story is still revolving around Dracula. He is like the linchpin of the whole story, even though they're not showing him. It's focusing on all these other characters and stuff. So that's the first big surprise, is Dracula is hardly in the book. And the other thing is there is no really big climactic battle with Dracula at the end of the book like there is in the movies. They have 2 square-offs against the character. One when they catch him actually drinking Mina's blood, and they drive him away. There's that confrontation. Then there's another one where they corner him in one of his hideouts, because in the book he has the sacred ground of his homeland that he fills his coffins up with, that he sleeps in. He has like them deposited all throughout London. So they actually corner him at one of his hiding spots and try to take him out there, but he escapes. But when it comes to the actual very final battle, spoiler warning, it's very subtle and it's over really quick. They basically corner the carriage of gypsies that are taking Dracula back to his castle, and they kind of they're kind of like servants of Dracula, but they're kind of they think they're doing something for the Count, but they don't realize the Count is actually This is what I got from the book. I might be wrong, but they don't really know that the Count is like this undead evil monster. They just think they're bringing something to his castle. So they stop the gypsies. They have like a very brief confrontation with them that doesn't last very long. And then basically they pop the lid off the coffin, and Dracula gives them all the dirty look, and they stab him through the heart and chop his head off, and he disintegrates into dust, and that's it. Happens very fast. And that's... So a lot of things that you go in thinking you're going to find in this novel, you're not. So you have to go in, you have to take all those preconceived ideas that you brought in with you from television and movies and things like that, and just throw them away when you actually read this book. And even his appearance. His appearance in pop culture is usually, you think of Dracula, he's good looking with the slick hair slicked back, dark hair, the pale skin, and the cape with the high collar, all those things. That's what you usually picture. But in the novel, he is like all decked out in black, a black cloak and stuff like that, but he's actually very horrific, especially at the beginning when he's in the castle with Jonathan Harker. He's very old, decrepit. He has a long mustache. He's bald on top with long gray hair, and he has long, spindly fingers with long fingernails and hairy palms, and his breath absolutely reeks. His skin is like pale, super pale white with red lips and long fangs. That's how he's described in the book. Very old and decrepit looking. And then they see him later on again in London, that Jonathan Harker actually catches a glimpse of him, and he's de-aged. He still has his mustache and all that, but now he's much younger, like 30 years old. Things like that. And the other thing that's interesting about this book is in the other movies, when he kills someone, it's just done very quickly. He outright kills them. But in this one, he slowly drains a victim of their blood over a series of nights. It takes like a long time. And like he feeds on them over and over and over again over a period of nights and nights and nights. And then slowly but surely draining their blood, but also converting them into a vampire themselves, which is what he does with Lucy. Now, the other thing that is in this book that I was surprised was in there is his 3 mistresses that he has at his castle. That was something that was in the 1990s film, the version of Dracula. And if you've seen that movie, you can remember the scene where Dracula holds up the baby and he gives it to the 3 vampire women that were almost going to seduce Jonathan Harker, and then he is completely horrified by what he sees because they just go down on it like a bunch of ravenous dogs. And that's actually in this novel, but you don't actually see the baby, but you get the hint that there is a baby inside of a bag that Dracula throws to his 3 mistresses. I'm not sure if they're his mistresses or his wives, don't really specify, but when he goes to London, he starts to do the same thing to Mina and actually converts her over to being a vampire. Lucy tries to convert her over to being a vampire, succeeds, and then he tries again with Mina, but it doesn't work. And the other thing about this book is you don't really know what Dracula's motivations are. They're not really explained. All that's left a mystery, along with his origin. There is no origin for him. Kind of know he came from a noble family and he fought in some wars before he was a vampire, but you don't really know who turned him into a vampire, or how that whole thing got started, which is something that was tacked on in the 90s film, where they gave him a backstory and they put in the whole his love had thrown herself out the window and she looked just like Mina, and the reincarnation aspect. None of that is in the book. Now, the other thing about this book, for me anyway, it's not a light read just because of where it was written so long ago and language has changed, so that makes it more of a heavy read. So it took me a while to get through it and finish it, but I did enjoy the novel, and it is one that I'll probably read again. Now, how does it compare to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein? Because I read that one. I actually think I like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein a little bit more than Dracula, just because Frankenstein is a more complex character, the doctor, and then I guess I always confuse the monster. Frankenstein's monster is a more complex character, and he has more of a character arc, and he's a lot more sympathetic, where Dracula, he's not sympathetic at all. So there you have it. That's all my thoughts on Dracula and the Illustrated Dracula by Jae Lee. So this is a great book to read at this time of the year, around Halloween and things like that. And if you can find this version, it's a great one to pick up. But there's a lot of really nice versions of Dracula out there in print. But any one of them will do. But this is a good one. If you're a fan of Jae Lee's art and you're a fan of Dracula, then this is a no-brainer. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.